Your person entered a millionaire's private dinner. Then someone mentioned your name. My beloved child, stop for a moment and listen carefully, because the story unfolding around your person may be much deeper than what you can see from the outside. They entered a private dinner expecting one kind of evening, but something happened inside that room that they never expected. They were surrounded by wealth, influence, success, luxury, and people whose names carried weight, but none of that prepared them for the moment someone mentioned your name. My beloved child, your name entered a conversation where you were not physically present, and the reaction of your person may have revealed more than any confession could have revealed. They may have tried to stay calm. They may have tried to smile naturally. They may have tried to pretend that hearing your name meant nothing. But inside, something shifted. Something they had been trying to keep buried suddenly came alive again. A memory. A feeling. A question. A regret. And perhaps most importantly, a realization that they had not completely moved on from you. My beloved child, this is not simply a story about a wealthy dinner. It is a story about timing, memories, hidden emotions, and the strange way life can place someone in exactly the environment where they need to confront a truth they have been avoiding. Your person did not know that your name would come up. They did not prepare themselves for it. They may have entered that private gathering thinking about business, opportunities, social connections, or their future. They may have wanted to appear confident and successful. They may have believed they had everything under control. But sometimes one sentence is enough to destroy the illusion of control. The dinner was private. The guest list was carefully selected. Every person there had a reason for being invited. The host was someone with considerable wealth and influence, someone who understood that the people around the table could shape future opportunities. Your person knew the evening mattered. They wanted to make the right impression. They listened carefully. They answered questions. They observed the people around them. They watched how conversations moved from business to ambition, from ambition to relationships, and from relationships to personal choices. Everything seemed normal until someone asked about them. Who is the person you really trust? Your person hesitated. Maybe they looked down. Maybe they smiled awkwardly. Maybe they tried to give a general answer. But then someone else mentioned you. My beloved child, imagine the moment. Your person heard your name in a room where they never expected it. Their heart may have skipped for a second. Their mind may have gone completely silent. They may have wondered how that person knew about you. Why were they mentioning you? What had they heard? Who had spoken about the connection? And suddenly, the entire evening became personal. Your person may have looked around the table, trying to understand what was happening. Someone may have said something positive about you. Perhaps they knew you through another connection. Perhaps they had heard about you indirectly. Perhaps the mention was unexpected and completely innocent. But for your person, it carried enormous emotional weight. My beloved child, sometimes the power of a name is not in the name itself. It is in everything that name represents. Your name represented memories. It represented a chapter your person thought they had closed. It represented feelings they had not completely resolved. It represented choices they wished they could revisit. It represented a version of themselves that existed when you were still close. And hearing your name in that elegant room may have reminded them that they had never fully escaped the emotional impact of your connection. They may have tried to participate in the conversation normally, but their mind had already traveled somewhere else. They remembered your voice. They remembered your face. They remembered the conversations you shared. They remembered moments when you understood them without needing them to explain everything. They remembered the times they disappointed you. They remembered the distance. They remembered the silence. And suddenly, the person they had been avoiding emotionally was sitting in their thoughts again. You. My beloved child, perhaps someone asked, do you know them? Your person could have answered simply, but maybe their response revealed more than they intended. Perhaps they said, yes. One word. But inside that word was an entire history. Maybe they said, we used to be close. Maybe they said, it's complicated. Maybe they smiled and changed the subject. But when people hear a person's name and immediately become uncomfortable, observant people notice. The host may have noticed. Other guests may have noticed. Someone may have asked another question. Do they still matter to you? That could have been the question your person did not want to hear. Because what would they say? Would they deny it? Would they pretend they had moved on? Or would they finally admit that you still occupy a place inside their heart? My beloved child, there are moments when a person can hide feelings from the entire world but cannot hide them from themselves. That dinner may have been one of those moments. Your person may have realized that their reaction to your name was stronger than they expected. They may have thought they were completely over the situation. They may have believed that enough time had passed. They may have told themselves that their life had moved forward. But one unexpected mention of your name reopened something. And that can be uncomfortable. It can make someone question their decisions. It can make them wonder whether they made a mistake. It can make them think about what might have happened if they had chosen differently. My beloved child, perhaps your person had been focusing heavily on their future. Maybe they were chasing success. Maybe they were building their career. Maybe they were surrounded by new people. Maybe they were trying to prove something to themselves or others. But success can sometimes create silence. When the noise becomes quiet, the unresolved emotions become louder. That private dinner may have created exactly that kind of silence. The room was full, but your person felt emotionally alone for a moment. They looked around and realized that none of those people knew the complete story of their heart. None of them knew what you meant. None of them understood why hearing your name had affected them. And perhaps that realization hurt. My beloved child, the dinner may have shown your person the difference between being surrounded and being understood. They may have had access to luxury, influence, and opportunities, but suddenly they were thinking about the person who once made them feel emotionally safe. That person may have been you. And this realization may have followed them long after they left the dinner. Perhaps they returned home and could not stop thinking. Maybe they opened their phone. Maybe they searched for your name. Maybe they looked at old pictures. Maybe they reread old conversations. Maybe they wondered how you were doing. Maybe they asked themselves whether you still thought about them. Maybe they imagined what would happen if they contacted you. My beloved child, the mind can create 1,000 possibilities in a single night. Your person may have imagined seeing you again. They may have imagined apologizing. They may have imagined explaining why they disappeared. They may have imagined telling you that they never stopped caring. They may have imagined asking whether there was still a chance. But fear can stop a person from acting even when their heart is clear. They may be afraid that you will reject them. They may be afraid that you have healed. They may be afraid that you have met someone else. They may be afraid that you no longer need them. And perhaps the greatest fear is that you will ask them why they waited so long. My beloved child, if your person is carrying these fears, you do not have to carry them for them. Let them face their own emotions. Let them decide what kind of person they want to be. If they truly want to return, they must be willing to take responsibility for the distance. They cannot simply walk back into your life as if nothing happened. They must understand that trust is not automatically restored because feelings return. Love may survive distance, but trust requires rebuilding. My beloved child, perhaps that is one of the biggest lessons hidden inside this dinner. The mention of your name may have reminded your person of what they lost, but it also reminded them of what they must do if they want another opportunity. They cannot hide forever. They cannot remain in the comfort of silence. At some point, they have to choose between pride and honesty. They have to choose between fear and courage. They have to choose between repeating the past and creating something new. My beloved child, perhaps the person who mentioned your name did not realize what they had triggered. Maybe they simply thought it was a normal conversation. But sometimes people unknowingly become the messenger of a truth someone desperately needed to hear. The person who mentioned you may have said something simple like, "I have heard good things about them." That sentence may have stayed in your person's mind. Because when someone else recognizes your value, it can make a person realize how foolish they were to overlook it. Your person may have wondered, "Why did I not see this before?" Maybe they had taken your presence for granted. Maybe they assumed you would always be available. Maybe they believed that they could return whenever they wanted. But now they may realize that time changes people. You have grown. You have healed. You have learned. And you may not be standing in the same emotional place where they left you. My beloved child, that thought may be both painful and motivating for them. They may begin wondering whether they still have a chance. They may start thinking about how to approach you. They may ask mutual friends about you. They may quietly observe from a distance. They may consider sending a message. They may type something and delete it. They may wait for the perfect moment. But remember, there is rarely a perfect moment. There is only the moment when someone decides to be honest. My beloved child, you do not need to create that moment for them. Let them create it. If they truly care, let them show courage. If they truly regret their choices, let them apologize. If they truly want to rebuild the connection, let them put in consistent effort. You do not have to convince them that you are worth choosing. They must decide that themselves. And if they do, their actions should prove it. My beloved child, perhaps you have been wondering why your person seems distracted lately. Maybe they have been unusually quiet. Maybe they appear emotionally distant. Maybe they have been looking backward instead of forward. This dinner could have triggered a wave of memories that they did not expect. When a person is reminded of someone important, they often start reviewing the entire relationship. They remember the beginning. They remember the good moments. They remember the conflict. They remember the ending. They remember the things they said. They remember the things they never said. And sometimes, the hardest memories are the ones involving missed opportunities. Your person may remember a moment when they could have chosen you but did not. They may remember an opportunity to communicate that they ignored. They may remember an apology they never gave. They may remember a day when you needed them and they were not there. These memories can create regret. And regret can become a powerful motivator when someone finally realizes what they have lost. My beloved child, but there is something you must remember. Regret alone is not enough. Someone can regret losing you and still be incapable of loving you correctly. Someone can miss you and still repeat the same mistakes. Someone can want you back because they are lonely rather than because they are ready for commitment. That is why wisdom matters. If your person returns, do not only listen to what they say. Watch what they do. Watch whether they respect your boundaries. Watch whether they communicate consistently. Watch whether they take accountability. Watch whether they make space for your feelings. Watch whether they are willing to earn back trust. My beloved child, you have nothing to prove. You do not need to make yourself smaller to make someone comfortable. You do not need to pretend you were never hurt. You do not need to forget the past just because someone suddenly wants a future. Healing does not require denial. You can forgive and still remember. You can love and still protect yourself. You can hope and still have boundaries. My beloved child, perhaps your person is finally realizing that the connection with you was not ordinary. Maybe they have met other people since you. Maybe they have had conversations with others. Maybe they have experienced new attention. But perhaps none of those connections created the same emotional depth. That does not mean you should wait for them. It means that genuine connection is difficult to replace. Some people leave an imprint that cannot be erased by simply meeting someone new. And hearing your name may have reminded your person of that imprint. My beloved child, imagine being surrounded by a table full of successful people and suddenly feeling emotionally transported to a completely different place. The room is beautiful. The food is expensive. The conversations are impressive. Everyone is dressed perfectly. But inside your person's mind is a memory of you. A simple moment. Maybe a laugh. Maybe a conversation in a quiet place. Maybe a look in your eyes. Maybe a moment when you held space for them when they were struggling. That memory may have been more valuable to them than everything around the table. Because memories are not measured by money. Emotional connection cannot be purchased. And perhaps your person finally understood that. My beloved child, the private dinner may have been a lesson about what truly matters. Wealth can open doors, but it cannot guarantee happiness. Success can attract attention, but it cannot guarantee genuine love. Influence can create opportunities, but it cannot guarantee emotional safety. Your person may have entered the room wanting to talk about the future, but they left thinking about the past. And the past led them directly to you. My beloved child, maybe the person who mentioned your name also asked something about relationships. Perhaps they asked, "Are you seeing anyone?" Your person may have given a vague answer. Maybe they said they were focused on themselves. Maybe they said they were not looking for anything serious. But inside, they may have been thinking about whether you were still available. They may have realized that if they want you, they cannot remain passive forever. They cannot expect you to remain emotionally frozen while they make up their mind. You are living your life. You are growing. You are becoming stronger. And they may finally be realizing that. My beloved child, this realization can create urgency. Not unhealthy urgency. Honest urgency. The understanding that if someone matters, you should not wait forever to tell them. Perhaps your person is approaching that realization now. Maybe they are considering reaching out. Maybe they are thinking about how to begin. Maybe they are afraid of what you will say. But something has changed. They can no longer pretend that your name means nothing. The room itself may have become a turning point. My beloved child, there is also another possibility. Perhaps the person who mentioned you knew something about your connection. Perhaps they had seen your person before when you were together. Perhaps they remembered the way your person looked at you. Maybe they said something like, "I remember you used to talk about someone important." That could have reopened an entire emotional chapter. Your person may have realized that even other people could see how much you once mattered. They may have wondered why they had tried so hard to deny it. Sometimes outside perspective reveals what a person cannot admit privately. My beloved child, perhaps that is why they became quiet. Maybe they were not embarrassed. Maybe they were processing. They were processing the realization that someone else had noticed the connection. They were processing the memories. They were processing the possibility that they still cared. And perhaps they were processing regret. My beloved child, if your person has been distant, do not immediately assume that distance means they do not care. But also do not automatically assume that distance means they are secretly preparing to return. Both extremes can create unnecessary pain. Stay balanced. Let reality speak. Your intuition can guide you, but your decisions should be grounded in observable behavior. If they contact you, you will know. If they make an effort, you will see it. If they apologize, you will hear it. If they change, you will experience the difference. Until then, continue your life. My beloved child, perhaps your person is now asking themselves whether they can still have a future with you. They may be imagining a conversation where they finally tell you the truth. They may be thinking about the first words they would say. "I know I hurt you. I know I disappeared. I know I made mistakes. I never stopped caring. I was afraid. I did not know how to handle what I felt." These words may be inside them, but words alone are not enough. The real question is whether they are prepared to live differently after saying them. My beloved child, if this connection returns, let it be built on maturity. Do not recreate the same dynamic. Do not return to confusion. Do not accept mixed signals. Do not allow old wounds to control new opportunities. If there is a second chance, it should feel different because both people are different. And if only one person has changed, the old pattern will eventually return. My beloved child, perhaps the most beautiful part of this story is that you do not need to force any of it. The person who mentioned your name did not plan the moment. Your person did not expect it. Yet it happened. Life created the moment without your involvement. That should remind you that some things happen without you having to chase them. You do not have to force every door open. You do not have to send every message. You do not have to arrange every meeting. Sometimes life creates opportunities naturally. Your responsibility is to be ready for whatever truth emerges. My beloved child, perhaps the dinner ended with your person making a quiet decision. Maybe they decided that they could no longer remain silent. Maybe they decided to look for a way to contact you. Maybe they decided to ask someone about you. Maybe they decided to revisit the past honestly. Whatever the decision was, the emotional shift could be significant. And perhaps that is why you have been sensing that something is different. But remember, sensing change is not the same as having proof. Let time reveal the truth. My beloved child, you have waited long enough for clarity. You do not need to manufacture it. Let the person who created the confusion participate in creating the solution. If they want to repair what happened, let them take responsibility. If they want to return, let them take the first courageous step. If they want your trust, let them earn it. This does not make you cold. It makes you wise. My beloved child, maybe your person is discovering that your absence Cr.